I'm finally making the Black Panther Civil War Ultimate Showcase video. This took me forever to make, mainly because I wanted to do a bunch of BG's fights with him, and he's a terrible decay attacker. Like, genuinely, he doesn't make sense in that pool. But outside of decay, like, he's actually a really cool champion. There are a lot of different BG's defenders that he's targeted at, that he just completely nukes, like, super fast, which we're gonna get to and stuff. And there's a lot of pros with this guy. I do think there are definitely some cons with this character. I'll be entirely honest with you, he is kind of a love-hate relationship kind of champion for me. Because one day I'll be like, dude, this might be like my first skill rank 4, and then other times I'm like, I kind of regret taking him to rank 3. He's a good champion, it's weird to evaluate him sometimes. And my favorite thing about Black Panther is just his burst damage is basically completely unavoidable. This includes like getting reduced by inequity or weaknesses. Like, it's just flat damage similar to Gallon's Harvest, and it is super cool. My least favorite thing about Black Panther is the fact that he cannot use his heavy attack unless you're using it as a kill shot. So for instance, if you are fighting a champion where you want to knock them down, like Maestro for example, you can't really do that because then you lose your entire ramp. At least you can't use that heavy attack at that specific moment. So those two things are very impactful when I'm evaluating him. The fact that he has unavoidable damage is super great, but the fact that he has very limited knockdowns I find really frustrating. But we're going to go through a basic rotation for him at the start, and this is a rotation for health pools that are like 500k or larger, because normally you don't need an SP1. The reason you use an SP1 there is just to get a little bit less power before you go into an SP2, and also just to get a few more charges and such. So we go for a massive SP2 there, and then these bleeds are going to bring Winter Soldier almost to death. Or, yeah, they finish him off, actually. And I don't run Deep Wounds, either. If you run Deep Wounds with Black Panther, you might have squeezed out 50 to 100,000 more damage from those bleeds there. So, yeah, he's pretty cool. We're going to get into BG's fights now, starting with this Mysterio. Some of these fights are going to be, well, actually, most of these fights are going to be from the current Gladiator Circuit meta, which has Mixmaster and Safeguard, which of course, considering Black Panther's damage is basically all in red, he is going to do a very good job of. We are going to do light, medium, light combos, just to manage Mixmaster pretty well, parry and do those. And then you saw me parry a good bit of hits on Mysterio's Special 1, so we have a bit more charges on the SP2, and then we drop it and Mysterio is just dead. So yeah, really, really fast and easy fight there. 38 seconds with pretty nice health. And now we're fighting a Sig 200 Photon. He's pretty good for Photon. He does lose a good bit of health if she's at a very high Sig, which this is, of course, the highest Sig Photon available. So if you are fighting a lower Sig Photon, which is going to be much more common, to be honest, then you are going to be much healthier at the end of the fight, unlike this one. Like, if you're fighting a Sig 60 Photon, which I feel like is pretty reasonable, you're gonna have, like, a lot of health at the end, like, closer to 90%. But, yeah, we're taking so much damage whenever we parry. But on the bright side, when you get to an SP2, she just dies. Because, again, you have damage that's unaffected by inequity. So, inequity is kind of what makes Photon extremely tanky on defense, and if she doesn't have access to that, then you can just kill her in 39 seconds, just like Black Panther did. Now we are fighting Bullseye, and you might think Black Panther would struggle with this fight, because he's not bleed immune, he doesn't have like perfect blocks like Sunspot would, so he is taking full damage from Bullseye's SP1. However, the difference is, you can kind of just get to your SP2, before Bullseye can throw multiple SP1s, and you're going to see that in this fight. This was like not multiple attempts or something for me to get it right, it's just you can do it pretty easily. And what might be helping me a little bit in this fight, which I cannot confirm or not, how impactful it is, but I am running 2 out of 3 in Pacify, or Petrify, the Petrify Mastery, which is the one that reduces the power gain the defender gets while stunned. So that might be impacting a little bit of how little power Bullseye is getting. I don't really know if it's enough to where he's throwing more than 1 SP1. I'd be more inclined to say that it doesn't impact that, but that is probably helping me a little bit. I run it because I play CGR a lot, and it actually translates very well to Black Panther, that specific mastery, so it's pretty cool. Now we're fighting Red Skull. This is actually from the victory track where we have Decay and such. And I didn't get a lot of Decay fights recorded because more often than not he's not great for them, for the defenders in that specific pool. As you saw earlier, I was fighting mainly defenders from outside that pool, but he's still decent for some, especially Red Skull. Any characters where you get to parry either their specials a lot or reparry their basic attacks a lot because they're failing stuns like Red Skull is, Black Panther just has a very good time with those, because you want to be spamming parry a lot. And I know that was a 6-star Red Skull. That definitely kills a rank 3. The amount of overkill damage we had would have completely wiped out a rank 3. So, next up we're fighting Arcade. Arcade is a tricky defender now. Black Panther does him pretty well. I wouldn't say it's the best matchup, but it's another matchup where usually if you get to an SP2 with a decent enough charges, you can just kill him before a lot of Arcade's threats can become online. So here I mess up a bit, and he goes to 2 of his tokens, so I'm going to use an SP1 to make him lose them. So now we just need to build up to an SP2. I do have to manage Mixmaster still, which is making this fight a bit more complicated, but that is fine. So if I managed my spacing better and I didn't let him get multiple tokens, then we probably wouldn't have needed an SP1 at all. So just a bit of a misplay on my part. However, we go for this SP2 here, and then Arcade is dead. If the Arcade was awakened, it would not make a difference in that fight, and that is a 49k score versus Arcade, which is pretty cool. Now we move on to, what is this defender? I think it's Nick Fury, yes. This is from a meta where they had Mighty Charge, so you were reparrying the defenders a lot. So that is helping Black Panther's damage a good bit, because you want to be going for those parries as often as possible. But he is pretty good for Nick Fury in general because of the often opportunities that you have to parry his special attacks, because you can generally get 2 to 3 parries on the SP1 and at least 1 on the SP2 if you know the timings right, of course. So we are going to go for the SP2 and then just follow up with a second SP2 as Nick goes into his second life. And because Nick is 6-star locked, of course this is going to do enough damage. Definitely enough damage, and we didn't even max out our charges as high as we could have. I didn't even bait as many specials as I could have. We just kind of got ready to end the fight, and now we just need to get the Reflective Matrix back, go for some parries, which now the stun immune node doesn't do anything, because Nick is permanently stun immune anyway. And then do we go for a heavy into an SP1? I'm not sure. I probably could kill him with a heavy into an SP1, and that is what we go for. And that is a Nick in about 70 seconds, which is not that bad. 66, actually. Not that bad at all. Definitely a lot of champs who struggle a bit more against Nick than Black Panther does. Next up, we fight the Thing. He's pretty good for Thing, because when you're fighting science champs, obviously, you're going to usually have enough damage to kill the defender in 1 SP2 almost no matter like if you went for a lot of extra charges or not. And this Thing is also Sig 200, and Black Panther is usually not gonna trigger protection via his Sig ability, at least, because you're never really doing a hit that's going to be that strong to trigger it. So it's just about getting those reparries, which of course we're gonna get a lot easier because of the node. However, you might just want to go for like an SP1 to gain some extra charges. if you want to make up for that, but I don't think you necessarily need to. Because of the fact that Thing is bleed immune, we are relying entirely on the burst damage. And yeah, the unblockable SP1 is annoying. Once it goes away though, and hopefully Thing throws it and I parry it, which I lost my reflective matrix, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. If he throws like a non-unblockable SP1, you can definitely get multiple parries on it. Like, I feel like I've gotten 3 on good occasions. And yeah, that's a 52-second Thing takedown. Not bad at all. And my opponent had a very good fight versus MCoC too, which is pretty cool. Because MCoC would also have a lot of hits on this SP1 that you can parry. So now we're fighting Jessica Jones. Black Panther has Cleanse on the SP1. That's generally what you're using to make this fight work. In fact, I probably do a strategy that I wouldn't suggest you do, and that is SP1 and SP2. Instead, I would go and just spam SP1 instead of SP1 into SP2, just to optimize the amount of cleanse you have, because as you're going to see once we go for the next SP2, I am going to trigger her unstoppable, which is not good. But our first SP1 in the fight brings her all the way down to 44%. So now we just need to wait for that reflective matrix to come back. I probably should have played a bit more chill during the phase when it wasn't there, because also eating that's hilarious. And then I literally couldn't recover fast enough. I remember that. I could not recover before she hit me again. So it's like I got stand-up intercepted by the AI, which is crazy. So yeah, instead of what I'm doing here, I would actually advise that you just slow play the fight when your matrix is gone, instead of going for another SP2. So that fight should have a much higher score, honestly, if I did it again and got a better rotation going. Now we're fighting Deathless Thanos. I don't think he's a perfect Deathless Thanos counter by any means, mainly because of the protection. And this Thanos isn't the highest sig, but it's a decent fight. I figured I'd show it off anyway. But definitely not something I'd suggest you take over a lot of other champions. Thanos has actually impacted the meta as a defender more than I expected him to. I think they gave him like a 4 out of 5 for defender on the website, which he's really strong on defense, I'm not gonna lie. And also missing a parry there was awful. So I definitely should have missed a parry there. It's pretty easy to parry this guy's specials. But now we're gonna go for an SP2, and it's gonna do decent damage at the start, and then protection comes in. It's just like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's whatever. Again, I probably wouldn't use Black Panther that much for this fight, but we at least knocked out half of his health there, and as long as we can keep getting parries, it's not that bad. As you can see, parrying his SP1's not that hard. I just kind of messed it up at the start of the fight, so I just need to control Mixmaster as well as I can, and Black Panther is pretty much a tank, so we can block these SP1s and not really take a lot of damage. I'm gonna go for a heavy attack here. Nope, we're gonna max out the charges actually, which is fair. So protection triggers and he takes literally no damage, and then the bleeds afterwards do some decent damage to him, but not enough to kill. But my basic attack afterwards, or after he evades actually, does kill. So not a terrible fight, but it could have been better. That's the last of my BG's fights. I'm gonna show a couple off-season war fights next. I don't know how great he's gonna be on War Attack. I don't think he's good for Decay at all, mainly because of the fact, like I said earlier, your knockdowns are very limited, and in this meta, you want to knock down the defender to place a slow. So I think he's a very nonsensical Decay attacker. Like, he really should not have gotten the tag, because he just doesn't function with it. Which is a shame, because I would love to use Black Panther in War. I just don't think it makes sense to do, because you want to knock the defender down, and Black Panther doesn't until he's going for a kill. Which, on a lot of nodes, in Alliance War specifically, you have to knock the defender down. Not even, like, defender-specific abilities that you need to knock them down. There's a lot of nodes on the war map that say you want to do that. But that was a really fast spot takedown. And next up, we're fighting this Maestro. which is a fight that I wish I showed off in BGs, because he is a great Maestro counter simply because of the amount of hits on Maestro's SP1 you can parry. Speaking of parry, I missed it at the start. That's fine. I did say earlier that Maestro is an example of a defender where it's like really annoying that you can't use your heavy early on. However, Black Panther does so much damage because of the amount of specials he can parry that almost doesn't matter. So he's going to get his Pierce here, which is going to make the fight a bit more annoying, but we're also about to max out our charges, and we do right there. We also get our heavy attack glanced, which does make us lose some damage, but this Maestro has both regen and overall more health than a BG's Maestro, so a BG's Maestro would already be dead, and we can go for the SP1 right here and finish him off. So genuinely a great Maestro counter. You can do that fight in like 37 seconds in BGs. So now we're fighting Mysterio again, this time on node 28 on the war map. And because Black Panther is decay, of course, we can ignore Mysterio's damage reflect, which is super awesome, via the withers. So we just kind of get to an SP2, want to do some parries on it, and that's just going to ramp up our damage a good bit, and then we go for a nice little kill shot. He did nullify my dex there, so he triggered Unstoppable, which is a little frustrating, because again, we cannot use a heavy attack to apply the slow. However, it's fine, because we're going to have enough damage to basically kill this Mysterio in a moment. Am I going to bait another SP1? Doesn't appear like it, and it doesn't appear like I even needed to. The bleeds are doing crazy damage, and I don't have deep wounds, which would extend the amount of damage they do by a lot. So those are the only off-season Black Panther fights I really took. And I just don't see him being a great war attacker, but a great BG's attacker and a great questing champion, which is what we're going to get to next. This is going to be some of the side quest bosses this month, starting with this Diablo here. It's at an interesting node. Every time you dash back, you are going to purify a poison, or just a damage over time debuff, and then you gain a debuff enhancement, which is going to increase the potency of your debuffs, of course. And Black Panther has the bleeds on his SP2, so this is a pretty cool fight for him. And also, you can get some decent parries on Diablo's Special 2, or Special 1, I should say. Like 1, and then I should have gotten that one. I just mistimed it. So, yeah, we're going to go for an SP2 here. I don't even think I utilized the node too well, but I didn't really need to, because Diablo just got wiped away there in 36 seconds. So, there's that fight. And then this Titania is the next side quest boss we're fighting. This Titania has... what nodes is this fight? The game is really laggy. Roll with the punches, which is going to reduce the duration of my stun. That looked like it was the main one. Something about her fury effects being paused and such. But as long as we can avoid her haymaker a good bit, this fight is pretty simple. So, parry here. There's a root as well, which is whatever. Which I think if it's a debuff, we can cleanse it via Black Panther's Cleanse. And then Titania has a lot of hits on her specials that we can parry, which is super cool, assuming I time it right, which it looks like I barely did, and then the game lag is killing me here. We have the weaknesses on us, but again, that's one of my favorite things about Black Panther. The weaknesses literally don't matter, because you go to the SP2 and it's just doing flat damage. Can I parry one of these? Like, come on, man. And then she throws a heavy, of course, and now I'm eating hits, but he is a tank. We barely lost any health there, and as you can see, it's 70k damage on every hit, just like every single special 2 you drop with Black Panther and max charges. That 70k number is not going down. The third side quest boss we're fighting is against this Sandman, which has dueled, which doesn't matter at all, an auto block node, which doesn't really matter because you're mainly doing hits when the defender is stunned, and just a couple other things. So as long as we can try to manage our parries decently on Sandman's SP2, or special 1, we're going to have a good bit of charges. I don't think I managed the parries perfectly. And Salmon is bleed immune, so we are losing out on a lot of damage on the SP2. But just like Thing, it's usually still fine. I think this guy actually does last a bit longer than I'd have liked. However, it's okay. We're gonna go for the parries here. And actually, I was late, so didn't get it there. But we go for a special 2 with 69 charges and 65,000 damage, and then we do that 2 more times. He's down to 12%. I believe the fight lasts a good bit of time after this, mainly because something happens. Let's see. I trigger Reflective Matrix, and if I parry heavy SP1, it should be over. Oh yeah, I miss a parry, and then he charges a heavy, and then I eat the heavy, and now I'm like, what the hell is this? I still don't know what's happening. It's just he's permanently unstoppable, so I drop my SP2, and I'm like, what is going on? And then the heavy finally kills him. I still don't even know what that was, if I'm being entirely honest with you. It was probably some nodes that I just kind of ignored, but yeah, this is going to be a power shield lane in Act content. It's Act 9, I think. I don't remember exactly what quests, but it's 9.1 something. And while Black Panther's burst damage won't increase with power shield because it's like it functions like Gallon's Harvest, it's not going to do that. The bleeds do. And you're going to see the bleeds are going to be insane on the SP2s. So as long as you're not fighting a bleed immune opponent, Power Shield with Black Panther is just a super fun time. Just a cool little quest I wanted to use him for. And we're nailing the parries on Morbius' special 2. So he's unblockable here. That happens when I reach 15 hits in my combo. I'm going to eat a couple hits there, but we're going to not go for the heavy. I guess I wanted to max out my charges, because why not? And then, just look at the bleeds, 18k per tick on each one. And then I let my relic finish him off. So, that was pretty cool, if I do say so myself. And, just a lot of damage. Obviously impractical, you're not fighting power shield all the time, but it was really cool. So, I'm fighting Hood on the same path. Game lag made sure I couldn't parry at the start. Oh well. And then, yeah, we want to parry Hood's specials as often as we can, if we can help it. So I get the beam there, Dex out at the tail end, and I know now, like, I don't even need max charges. Well, I say that, and then I dropped an SP1. I definitely don't need max charges because of how hard Black Panther's special 2 is hitting with the bleeds. But it looks like I went for an SP1 anyway, for some reason. So, we're going to be locked at 55, and heavy attack here, and then the bleeds are doing 13k per tick, and Hood is going down. So there we go. And now I believe we fight the boss of this quest next, which is, yeah, this Gladiator Hulk. So this Hulk had some interesting nodes. He only throws specials if you have a taunt on him, which you get by dexing the opponent, because of another node, Chum in the Waters, yeah. So you dex, you get debuffs on both Hulk and yourself, and everything else doesn't really matter. He's going to have a lot of extra attack, but let's just see Black Panther in action, versus this 1.2 million health Hulk boss. Because again, the nodes aren't that big here, because we just kind of need a dex to place a taunt and they throw specials. So let's just see what his damage looks like, versus a health pool this large, because we hadn't really used him versus a health pool this large yet. So we're just going to go for our parries, try to parry his SP1, of course, if we can help it. It is only one hit, which is a little annoying, because we would like to gain some more charges if we can, but it's an easy hit to parry, so that's not a big deal. We have a disorient on us, but Black Panther is super tanky. We're only taking 2% from that still, with all the extra attack Hulk has. So definitely a cool thing there. I do love how tanky this guy is. He has like crit resist and a lot of armor rating. He just feels really strong. So heavy attack into the SP2 there, plenty of damage on the actual SP2 itself, and then I go for some parries on his SP2, and I notice Hulk is at 50%, so basically another SP2 is going to be all the damage I need. I'm also in the range of the Courage Mastery, which is going to help the bleeds a little bit. And when I trigger Counter Strike, I'm also gaining a little Fury, which is going to be useful for the SP2 bleeds. So, yeah, pretty simple fight. We need to go for another SP2 here, but I did lose my Counter Strike Furies, excuse me. Does that matter? Doesn't look like it. Those bleeds are gonna finish him off. So yeah, pretty cool fights there. And then next up, where are we going? I don't even know what my clips were. We're fighting, okay, so this is going to be an iHulk in another quest. So I'm going to let you read the nodes, I'm going to let the fight play out, and I'm going to come back for a more interesting fight later on in the video. Okay, so now we're gonna fight a couple of the Autumn of Agony bosses, starting with this Cassie. This Cassie, she wanted you to parry your specials a good bit. You want to just parry a lot in general because you have this pursuit and this vigilance that you're gonna get. And then there's also going to be a crush that you can get if you dash back too much, so you want to block a lot in this fight, which Black Panther enjoys doing. And this was also a fight where you really don't want to rely on debuffs because every debuff on her is going to reduce the duration of the rest of the debuffs by 30% each. So the bleeds on Black Panther's SP2, the first one's going to be like regular duration, and then after that 30% reduction and 60% reduction, which is fine because we don't necessarily need the bleeds for a bunch of damage. They definitely impact how hard it hits, but we're just going to be playing this relatively slowly and just going for SP2s as we get them, or SP1 into SP2 I should say. And as you can see there, it brought her down a third of her health, so I'm just like, okay, 3 of those rotations, and that's going to be really chill. So I'm going to remove her little thing that has the combo detonation, I think it's called. And every time we cleanse the debuff, we are going to go inverted control immune, but Black Panther doesn't really care that much. We're just doing parry light anyway, so it's really easy to manage the inverted control. Like, it's not like a difficult fight where you are doing a bunch of intercepts while inverted and stuff, because we're literally just blocking a lot. So heavy attack into the SP2 again. This is going to bring her hopefully down to 33%, so we can keep the third range, but it does not. She's left at 35. which is okay. I just need to build up a little bit more charges on my last SP2. And here it looks like I'm not going to be able to get that combo detonation off. I had one hit left, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. We're just going to build to that last SP2, ideally with a good bit of debuffs, and then it's going to be lights out for Cassie. Really cool boss fight for Black Panther, and maybe I'll use him for the Epic of Pain, which is coming next month. Well, actually, by the time this video goes public, it will be this month, because this should go live on February 1st. So that could be cool to do. I remove the Power Sting just at the end, and then go for the SP2, and that does, yeah, it does do enough damage to finish off the defender. So, next up we're fighting Autumn of Agony Heimdall. This was a really fun fight for Black Panther. I don't like this fight much in general, but I thought Black Panther was just super fun for this guy, especially if you can nail those parries on his SP1. You just gain so many charges, and the burst damage from the battery node is completely insane. So let's just see how it goes. It was a really fast fight too, which always feels cool. So we're gonna do the normal couple hits and then dash back, and then we need Heimdall to drop his specials because it's Matador, so we're relying on his power rather than my own. And got some nice parries there. If he auto blocks, it's fine. We do need to bait a heavy attack and counter it eventually to let me use my specials, because otherwise he's going to be unstoppable during them. Have a disorient on me here, but we get that parry, and then just look at the battery count. It skyrockets, and then the bleeds are still extending how high it's going to go. And I'm dropping SP1 there to gain a few charges, dump some of my power, and do a bit more damage. And yeah, we're going to just go for another SP2, and that's going to be it, hopefully, if we have a decent enough amount of charges. So I need Heimdall to drop a special right here. Not parry, got the parry in the last hit though. And here I'm hoping he throws a heavy. I'm going to bait a heavy. No, I'm not. Here I'm going to bait the heavy. And then we don't get the counter. Get the counter there though. And then heavy into the SP2, which does the trick. So the last fight I'm showing you is from Alliance Raids. PSA, do not bring Black Panther into Alliance Raids, because this actually sucked. We're fighting this Deathless She-Hulk from the most recent iteration of Raids, which, you know, it's a Science Defender, so this is going to be basically his easiest fight, and it didn't feel good. I was using the, I don't remember what hack it was called, but it's the one that gives you cleanses and then you gain Furies. It doesn't feel good. His damage doesn't increase by the Furies or the Raids buffs. Or the bleeds do, but not the burst damage. So yeah, this fight feels pretty bad, and I would not suggest you take your Black Panther to Raids, but I did use him for like a whole week, so I was going to show a little clip of that. Hopefully, you know, maybe there's going to be a hack that makes him like super good for this, but overall he's pretty useless in the pool. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to start wrapping up the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. There were a couple other fights that I actually didn't get to include in the video because of recording failures. Specifically in the Grandmaster's Gauntlet, I used Black Panther to solo Mojo, Void, and Nick Fury, which all felt really good, by the way, but the recordings failed on all of them. And those were fights that are relatively deep into the Gauntlet. I just didn't want to do another run again, so I do apologize for that. But those were some really cool fights that I wish I got to show off. It's whatever. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We did do the 12% on She-Hulk. She just didn't go unstoppable because of a few fractions and stuff. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.